July 27th, about 9:30 p.m. here in the Mountain West. I was looking at this earlier and I happened to spot something that, well, it drew my attention. And what we are looking at here is the carbon monoxide concentration at the surface level. And carbon monoxide is produced both by burning of fossil fuels, kerosene, etc., and it is also produced naturally. And when it occurs naturally, it sometimes, not all, but many times can be an indicator of seismic movement. And as you can see on this map here, there's two areas. This is up here in Russia. And then what really drew my attention, and I wanted to zoom in on this, let that build, was two areas in particular. There we go. So this is the Los Angeles area, and this is up in the Yellowstone area. So if we continue to pull in on this, and we'll try to get it as far as it'll let us, those are extremely high concentrations. In fact, this is in the area that, well, it's not real healthy. So let's go over here and see what the United States government has to say about CO2 poisoning. So if you're in an area there in the Los Angeles area, which has already had numerous problems with CO2, carbon monoxide leaks. Here is just some of the things: headache, fatigue, shortness, dizziness, mental confusion, as you can see, ultimately death. Well, that's always a great way to think about things. But the point is, I wanted you to see that there is some areas of concern. I don't know what's causing this. But those, if I was living in the area, and let me see, so we got Mexico, I think this is right in the Orange County, so we're looking right down from San Francisco, which I think would be the Half Moon Bay area. I believe that this is just south of San Jose. So, folks, something to be, if you live in this area, I'd just be real conscious and aware that the satellites and the meters at the ground are showing very high concentrations. Now, over here at the Yellowstone, well, I don't even want to think about that. We'll just leave that as. So let's talk about the world that we have been watching. And I got to tell you, I began to, just so you can actually see here. So this is the sulfur concentration. It's real interesting when you begin to look at what is actually all of us are breathing. And sometimes it can get somewhat disconcerting. So I was doing some research today, looking specifically at some questions that all of you have been posting, and thank you. I think this is a forum, I'd like to think, that where we all can exchange ideas and see what we can come up with. I know I read that one of y'all actually went and talked to a meteorologist, and he said, well, there's nothing unusual about this. This is normal for the hurricane season. And I wrote back to him and I said, well, isn't that interesting, though? The hurricane season started June 1st, and there have been no major storms in the Atlantic. I believe we're going on past 10 years now, but we find heightened and increased activity in the Pacific Ocean. So, and he started grinning. He said, well, yeah, that's the point. So I did some research. Someone asked me, what models do I use? Well, I don't use any models. This one here, everyone, I've provided you the website that you could go to see. And if you need it again, I'll post it. But when I started researching about, for instance, I saw a story today that was talking about the increased amount of tornadoes in Africa, and more specifically, South Africa. So I began to do some research, and yes, tornadoes do happen. However, what is different is the frequency of which they're now occurring. And as I began to look into this research, I'm finding that there is an increase of tornadic activity all over the world. And then I found this, this, by the way, was in the Washington Post, and they had an article on the computer predictive models that are out there. And really, folks, it's a new science. And unfortunately, much of that science is flawed. We've all seen the controversy of how they tried to manipulate the data, particularly from the UN, on global warming. And we all know that that was manipulation of just trying to get a tax on the world population. That's all it is. Now, is climate change happening? Absolutely it is, unequivocally. Is it man-made? I think you're a fool if you think that this is all man-made. Quite frankly, that is that's disinformation. Let's call it for what it is. But let's talk about the real facts, and we can see it here. By the way, before I get into what the Washington Post, look at this, folks. Now, that's a north-south, and we'll be talking about more of this area over here. But let me just get to this point. It says, all predictive computer models have one distinct flaw. They are all man-made, so the results are shaped by human judgment. Now, here's the other thing. The science of understanding many aspects of global weather, such as tornadoes and the jet stream, are still evolving sciences. Where the subject of tornadoes are concerned, there's virtually little really understood about tornadoes. That is still being understood and trying to be the dynamics of it. The jet stream. Now, here's an interesting point about the jet stream. Although many aspects or the fundamentals are known and understood, scientists, however, are admitting that they still are trying to learn how those fundamentals work. So when we talk about what is a normal jet stream, you could talk to 100 meteorologists and you're going to get 100 different opinions. The fact of the matter is that most meteorologists depend upon 3 or 5 different models in which to try to do their weather forecasting. Now, here's another interesting fact. If you ask your local meteorologist the reliability of a 5-day forecast, anything past 24 hours begins to get reduced greatly. By the time you're out to 5 days, you're at about a 10% predictability of being correct. So the question is, so if global climate change is taking place, what's causing it? And how much does the jet stream influence global weather? Well, I think we're learning that it has, I think if not the most, well, I think it is the dominant feature. What the jet stream does is going to affect all life on the Earth. So, kind of recapping here, the models used today are still evolving, and weather prediction is at its best a best guess. So, when we see what we have here, and I'm going to end this, I didn't mean for this to go on this long, but I think it's important that we can all at least have a foundation of understanding. There is something going on over here. This is not normal. This is not the westerlies. This is not the intertropical convergence zone intermixing. No, this is something more distinct. And particularly at these levels of the Earth's atmosphere, there's something more going on here. And tomorrow we'll look into it more. We'll see what happens overnight. All right. Talk to you soon.